What is good, everybody? I am back with a brand new video. Dopey is still here. If you watched the last video, I am filming this all in the same day. I'm trying to pump out some content. Now that I'm working for Amazon, I'm working, a little bit more than I used to at the local grocery store. So trying to get some content uploaded, get some content ready for you guys. So if you enjoy the grind, if you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Today, I'm going to be talking about possibly the most overlooked thing in disc golf for beginners. I want to talk about wind. Wind is something that I think a lot of beginner disc golfers don't take into consideration. Not to say that if there is not a blasting headwind or tailwind that you aren't going to realize when you're out there throwing the disc. This is more of the moderate headwinds, tailwinds, left to rights, right to lefts, some of the not as fast winds, but are still going to affect the disc. One of the biggest things that I do when I step up to a tee pad is I check what kind of wind there is. The classic Paul Macbeth, take some grass, put it up in the wind, and sometimes maybe your buddies are really looking at you like, really? Does this actually, is your shot good enough to be doing that? Now, I think the most important winds to understand are headwinds and tailwinds. If you have a headwind, headwinds are going to make discs less stable. They are going to try to pick the disc up. And typically, headwinds don't allow the disc to fly as far. Tailwinds are pretty much the exact opposite. They're going to make a disc more stable. They are going to try to push the disc down. And usually, you can let that disc ride that tailwind out to a further distance. So tailwinds are a lot of times our friends out on the disc golf course. So when you step up to a tee pad and you have a headwind, what kind of disc do you want to pick out? What should you be thinking in your head? Headwinds are going to make a disc less stable, like I said. It's also going to hold a stable disc, usually more straight. So I'm going to have to beef up to, say, a Thunderbird. This is much more stable, no turn, and it's going to fade back to the left very hard. In a headwind, this is going to act more of like a neutral flyer and hopefully finish left still. The other thing you should be thinking about is trying to keep that nose angle down. Once you put that nose angle up in a headwind, it's just going to sky ride and it's going to fall out left. It might come backwards at you maybe a little bit, who knows, depending on how hard that wind is. Now, tailwinds is going to be completely opposite. In a tailwind, I might be able to pick up something a lot more slow. So maybe I pick up a mid-range where usually I would throw a fairway driver because of the fact that that tailwind is going to let that mid-range almost float on is kind of how I would explain it. It's going to allow it to go further because it's going to just get carried by the wind. Just the other day, I had a tailwind and I picked up my Hades. Like I said, there's a tailwind. This is a -3 turn. It's pretty high speed, so it's got to be thrown hard, but I was definitely expecting to get some turn out of this. Right when I threw it, it didn't turn at all, and my buddy immediately said, there's a tailwind out there. So I took a much more understable, this is a Jawbreaker Scorch, threw it on a slight hyzer, and it actually turned, and it was able to fly a little bit further because that tailwind is making the disc more stable. Now, I could definitely get into left and right headwinds, right to left tailwinds, whatever it may be, but I think the most important ones for now, as maybe we can do another video in the future, but right now it's more about headwinds, tailwinds, and trying to decipher what to throw when you have that kind of wind. Anyway, guys, just remember, for a headwind, you want to keep that nose angle down and you want to keep that disc low and underneath the wind to get maximum distance. You also want to grab a more stable disc. In a tailwind, you want to throw it pretty flat, take something a little less stable, maybe a little slower if you can, and just let that wind take the disc. Hopefully this video helped you guys. I know when I was learning, I wanted a much more simplified understanding of a headwind and a tailwind. Even once I knew the simplified version, that helped me a lot on the course. And it took me a long time to remember how wind actually affected the disc. So that is why I wanted to keep this pretty simple. Maybe in another video I can talk about left to right and right to left winds and how they can affect hyzers or once you show that flight plate, if you guys would like something like that. If this video helped you, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Go follow Chasing Chains _ on Instagram where I post there daily, and we'll see you on the next one.